We celebrate today the feast of Saint Bruno, and Saint Bruno is the founder of the Carthusians, which is the strictest religious order in the Catholic Church. I believe that it is the only religious order in the Catholic Church that has never gone through a reform. And that's because they're so strict that they've never left their understanding of what it is to actually live out their life as a Carthusian. You would have like the Carmelites, like St. Teresa of Avila had to reform the Carmelites because they got soft and they started not living their life as they should. There's been more reforms of the Franciscans than one could count, which is why there's many different types of Franciscan groups. But St. Bruno was born in 1030, and he lived his life early as a priest, kind of in like prestigious positions. He was a university professor. He was then made the chancellor of his diocese. He had a very saintly bishop. And then he got a new bishop, and the bishop was like very worldly and terrible. And Bruno actually helped to kick his bishop out of his diocese. The bishop actually then retaliated and burnt down his house. No big deal. It was, it was the 1000s. And so Bruno eventually, like towards later in his life, felt this call with two others, priests, just to leave the world. And so they founded what is now known as a Carthusian monastery, where the brothers live in separate cells, and they only come together 2 times a day for morning prayer and for evening prayer. They don't talk to each other, and they have no common meals except on certain feast days during the year. Certain feast days of saints, they'll have some common meals together, but they just live a life of just total immersion in prayer and in silence. So St. Bruno has some pretty awesome quotes. I'm going to share 2 of them with you today. He says this: "While the world changes, the cross stands firm." While the world changes, the cross stands firm. Some of you may have heard my little exhortation prior to the Liturgy of the Word this past weekend about how anxiety and uncertainty, and the uncertainty that is in our world right now creates anxiety, and thus the need to focus on what we know is certain. What we know is certain is our faith, Christ's true presence in the Blessed Sacrament, the Incarnation, God's love for us. And so St. Bruno, in a true sense, says here as well, as the world changes, the cross stands firm. That is our foundation. That is our hope. That is our bedrock. That gives us purpose, meaning, and order. And that we have certitude within. St. Bruno also has this great quote. He says, "By your work, you will show what you love. By your work, you will show what you love." For those of you who heard my homily yesterday about St. Francis Xavier Seelos, actually Blessed Francis Xavier Seelos, he's not actually canonized yet. I corrected myself mentally multiple times in my head yesterday, but I think I kept calling him a saint. So for those of you, like, I'm not the Pope, I can't canonize him, but he's just blessed at the point where, like, but we hope he'll be a saint someday. But he gave this whole list of like 10 ways to like live your, to obtain holiness. And it's a really long list, and it's like over 2 hours of prayer every single day. And yet, by your work, you will show what you love. How we spend our time, how we spend our money, how we spend our resources, how we spend, like, it does ultimately point to, like, this is who I am and this is what I love. And thus a great evaluation for us is, where do I spend my time? Where do I spend my resources? And how is that in a line with what God calls us to? In our gospel passage today, Mary clearly chooses the better part, and it will not be taken from her. Bruno as well chose the better part, which is prayer which is time with the Lord. By being here today, you are choosing the better part. You are showing, by your spiritual work of being here today, what you love. So may we, as we make this act of love to the Lord today, as we choose this better part, may we in exchange receive all the more the love of God. Let us stand.